Ready to start? Okay, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillahi amma ba'd. We will start off with questions of those in the physical essence first, physical presence, then those who are long distance and online, inshallah ta'ala, one by one, starting off with the sisters. If the sisters have questions, then I have first swing, inshallah, first to bat, then the brothers next, then someone from online, inshallah ta'ala. So if there are any questions from the sisters, they should have sent them already by now. I'm assuming, I want to assume that they don't have any questions right now. Are there any questions from the brothers here on the floor or those sitting in chairs? Follow that. Okay. That's it. Clear. Right. First question is regarding the ruling on if you get acid reflux in the salah and you swallow something, something comes up and goes back down, does it break your wudu, does it break your prayer? Inshallah, we get it to our elder, Brother Ali Davis. La. Bismillah. Somebody got to answer, right? Right, at the end of the day, me personally, I think this question will be more appropriate regarding fasting. Initially, if you swallow something, you vomit, you spit up, etc. But that's not the question. The question is about salah. If you swallow something or if you eat something in the salah, does it nullify your salah, your wudu, etc.? At the end of the day, it doesn't bother your prayer or your wudu. Inshallah, it doesn't bother your prayer, nor does it harm your wudu. Especially if it's a very small amount, and especially if it's something that you don't have the control and the power of. Nosebleed, anything like this. Spitting up, vomiting, anything like this. Doesn't nullify the wudu, does not break the salah, and if it's something which is unintentional and involuntary, it doesn't destroy your fasting as well. Being in that time. Wallahu a'lam. That's in brief. That's what I would say on the issue. With the laws all success. Sisters. Oh, wait, matter of fact, no, they lost their turn. It's online now. It's online. Yeah, it's online. And then come back to the sisters.
Father, you want to go on YouTube? Oh, you got it? He's working on it.
Right.
Sorry.
Questions from London, UK, initials AK. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. What is the ruling on working as an IT technician in a law firm? Question says, what is the ruling on working as an IT technician in a law firm?
Swallow. It's a question for him. Anyone?
No, it's for anybody. It's not just for me.
Right, but answer, what's a prohibition? What is a prohibition? What will be the problem? I'll suggest, unless there's some type of mandate that's clear, if there are any clear clear prohibitions that will prevent a person from working there, I don't see any. The also is that it's mubah. The also is that it's mubah.
You want to add to it?
No. It's clear. Here's the answer. Brother Ali's answer is that if there's nothing to state that it's haram, then take the job. Unless it's prohibited. Perhaps the questioner is afraid of issues pertaining to, the laws that are made by men, made laws. It's not the Sharia, etc. Dealing with convicting someone or defending someone, deeming someone innocent who actually is a criminal. That's problematic. But the default, he's basing his answer off of the default, is that it's permissible to have a job to work as an IT technician unless you're clearly doing something which is impermissible and unlawful. And if a person were to say it's haram to work for a law firm being an IT technician, which a person could say, he's going to have to say that many other jobs are haram as well, like working in the post office. How many letters are being sent, packages being sent, which anger Allah? No question about that. Kufr and shirk and sihr and disobedience and fahisha, lying is being sent. Thousands, millions, parcels. But that's not my job. I just pass on the box. I don't know what's inside of the box. I don't need to know or want to know what's inside of the box. Now, I do know something is haram. This is a specific case that I'm working on that I have to do. That's a different story. I seek Allah's help and staying away from it, getting someone else to do it, etc. But if we make that ruling, then we're going to have to make that ruling on many, many other jobs. And having a good paying job, which is initially permissible and not openly haram, is scarce. Scarce for somebody that's trying to practice. It's scarce. And what did he say? The other Muslims don't take off on Friday? Why do you take off on Friday? It's hard. So there's so many other Muslims in the workplace. You're trying to do the right thing. They don't care about doing the right thing. And then you look like the extremist, fundamentalist, person. So it's hard to have a job. It's difficult. So we don't have a clear proof stating that's haram. Then we go with the default, that is permissible until clearly proven to be impermissible. My humble opinion, Allah knows best. Of course, working in a law firm, you're going to come across some sticky issues. No doubt about that. Seek Allah's help. Try your best to avoid touching them directly yourself. Try your best to avoid dealing with them themselves. Give to someone else. Try to get out of it somehow, some way. And make ask Allah for forgiveness and give extra sadaqah. Wallahu a'lam. The question is now, the sisters.
The sisters, Assalamu alaikum, may Allah grant you Jannah Firdaus. What are the mistakes and wrong phrases that are used and done when making dua? Mistake in making dua. This is a general question. Generally, this is super general, but of course, we don't say anything in the dua that would be considered shirk, putting partners with Allah. Anything that is not, or that will go beyond what we've been taught by the Prophet ﷺ as far as making dua or trying to specify a specific time out of anything we have already narrated in the text. Also, we should know the adab of dua. We should know the etiquettes and the manners of making dua. Right? If we don't know that, we should know the manners of making dua so that we are closer, inshallah, to our dua. We feel that we've done everything that we possibly can do to make sure, or to assure, and hopefully that Allah answers our dua. But of course, this is it's not like a list. I don't have a list. It's not a list made of what not to say in dua, except staying away from the prohibitions. Staying away from asking Allah for things that are haram, or asking Allah or seeking the dua through other than Allah, or thinking that someone else is going to share in providing what you ask in the dua and things like that. Wallahu a'lam. The second question says, how do we understand that we should not tell everyone every blessing we had to avoid evil eye? And then the ayat says, وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. طيب. The ayat says, as for the favor of your Lord, then speak about the favor of your Lord. So what is the cap on it? When do we know when to stop? Stop talking about our favors that Allah has given us. But this question says, to avoid the evil eye, one thing we shouldn't do is have fear. We fear Allah Jalla wa. Evil eye, al-ayn al-haq. We don't fear, we fear Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Nothing happens except by Allah's decree. Right? We do things and we know that everything in the a'mal bin-niyat. Right? We're doing things based on the niyyah. You're telling a person something based on the ayah. You're trying to implement the ayah. You're not doing it for the ayah. You're not doing it to be seen, not for people to hear you. But as we read that narration the other day in the class, that sometimes you might want to mention Allah's virtue in order to encourage other people. So one of the Salaf, he mentioned to some of the Shabab, some of the youth, he mentioned that at night, he said, he told one of them, not one night passes by me that, except that I read 1,000 ayat from the Quran. And I read Al-Baqarah in one rak'ah. What was the benefit of telling him that? To encourage the one listening. To encourage the one that was listening, not to show off. So a person is based on the intention, but what we don't do is fear the ayn. We fear Allah Jalla wa Ala. And it's only by Allah's decree of Allah. Alright.
Does good moral character some, like let's say a person's an alpha male, does their version of moral character, have to be taken down a notch, or does it adjust? Or a person that's like a type A or type B personality?
Clear.
Is husnul khuluq universal, does it change depending on the personality type?
Clear. Question is regarding makarim al-akhlaq or husnul khuluq, good character, good moral character. Is it set in stone? Is it just one gear? Or are there different gears based off of a person's personality? Such as someone who's naturally a domineering person, or a softer person, or an alpha male, or a commander type of personality, whatever personality test you're taking, you have, etc. My answer is yes and no. Yes and no. Of course, there are certain things that people are more inclined to than others. And the Prophet ﷺ says in the hadith of Anas, no ulama they differ over this hadith, is it authentic or not, but hopefully the meaning is authentic. Bi-idhnillah, arhamu ummati bi ummati Abu Bakr. He says, the most merciful of my nation to my nation, the most merciful from among the Muslims to the Muslims is Abu Bakr. And we know, وَأَشَدُّهُمْ فِي اللَّهِ Umar. And the harshest of them is Umar. وَأَصْدَقُهُمْ حَيَاءً Uthman. And the most shy from among my followers is Uthman, to the end of the hadith that talks about Mu'adh ibn Jabal, it talks about Zayd radiallahu anhu, and Ali radiallahu anhu, etc. وَأَفْرَضُهُمْ Zayd, مثلا, etc. At the end of the day, the Prophet ﷺ, he said this, or his quoted have said this in this hadith, speaking on stronger qualities and character traits in the companions versus others. So for Umar radiallahu anhu to have good character, it's obviously going to be tailored around his nature of harshness and of toughness. Allah knows best how authentic these sources are, but there's some sources who say, Allahu Alam, Allah knows best, disclaimer, is that Umar radiallahu anhu, when he was younger, he was treated very harshly by his father. He says his father was very, very harsh with him and would hit him and beat him like this, what people call it today abuse. So obviously that has, according to that, Allah knows best how true that is, was going to have an effect on someone when they grow up, we call psychology. So hypothetically speaking, he's naturally just rougher and tougher. So the good character is going to be wrapped around his nature. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu was just naturally softer and kinder and sweeter. And husnul khuluq is going to be wrapped around that and tailored around that. But under any circumstance doesn't mean is that, and it goes back to the talk that we did, you have to listen carefully. Husnul khuluq, first and foremost, is with your aqidah, your iman, your ibadah. As you as a Muslim, crying, tawbah, that's something which everyone has to do. The tough guy, the soft guy, the smooth talking guy, the alpha male, everyone has to make tawbah. Everyone praises Allah. Everyone has to lower their gaze. Everyone has to stay away from zina, etc. So that's something which, that's the no part of the answer. It doesn't change from person to person. Whether you're an alpha male, or whether you're whatever else, what other type of male or wolf you are, it doesn't change. It doesn't change. But there are other things in which this is not as bad because everyone knows this guy is a tough type of person. I'm very jealous of how my family, I'm very overprotective of my family. That's fine, as long as it doesn't go to the extreme. And that's where the shaitan comes in. It's getting someone to feel that it's okay because I'm naturally like this. And that you're too harsh. It's no longer alpha male and protective father or jealous husband. It's now insecure wreck. You're wrecked now. You're hollering, everyone, my wife, my kids. It's no longer praiseworthy. As the Prophet ﷺ told us the story of the two men, one narration, one version of the narration, they were from Bani Israel. And one was a worshiper, and one was a sinner. One was very pious, and one was a good person initially, but he was sinful. He was weak. He loved what? His heart was what? Full of sin. Alright? So, he told his man to stop. He told his friend to stop. Stop sinning. Stop sinning. Fear Allah. Stop sinning. And he kept telling him, and then one day he was doing whatever he was doing, prostitution, khamr, whatever the sin was. And he says, have you been sent as my watcher? Is that your only job? Is just to see what I'm doing? Is that's your purpose? Just to make sure I'm doing the right thing? He says, leave me alone, give me a break. And then the man, he said, the righteous man says, Wallahi, Allah will never forgive you. Talking like that. I'm telling you to stop and this is how you respond to me? So Allah Azza wa Jalla, he caused them to die. He took them. And they were, he brought them. They were dead. Their souls, they came back. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says, Man alladhi yata'alla alayya Allah asks the question, scary, dangerous thing. He says, who is the one that has enough nerve and gall to swear that I won't forgive one of my servants? Who's that? Who knows that? Who has the audacity to ask them to make that statement? And Allah Azza wa Jal, He told the sinful person to be forgiven. The angels, they forgave him. They didn't forgive him, but they showed mercy to him. He forgave him, and the righteous man was punished. So some of the ulama of Islam, they say from this authentic narration, it shows that a person's jealousy or a person's, this quality could be too much, and you're now outside of the boundaries, and it's no longer a good thing to be alpha male. It's no longer alpha male. Now it's too much. Now you're too harsh, and it's no longer good to be soft and kind. Now you're being weak and you're cowardly. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he explains this, the concept of shyness, al-haya. And he says that if you have too much shyness, in which you don't have the courage and the bravery to do your Islamic responsibilities, then it's no longer praiseworthy. Rather, not only is it no longer praiseworthy, he says, laysa haya, and it's no longer shyness, but it's now cowardice. It's cowardice now. And many of us, we have that. Okay, so everything is based off of the levels of the Quran and the what? The Sunnah, the scales. Mawazima, it has to be balanced. And of course, balance doesn't always mean 50-50. It could be 60-40, depending on the person. And when it was time for Abu Bakr to fight, and it was time for him to take a stance, who took the stance? There you go. Umar radiallahu anhu says, don't fight them, you can't wage war. And Abu Bakr says, no, I will. If it's one baby goat, a baby sheep, that they're not giving to me in zakat, that they used to give to the Messenger of Allah, we're going to war and we're going to fight them. Not for a flock, listen, a huge big ram, a camel, one baby that they say we don't have to give to you because you're not the Messenger of Allah. He says then we're going to war. So that, as you just mentioned, Umar radiallahu anhu was soft in that instance, and Abu Bakr was what? No question about that. So the concept is that it's a balance, as long as it's based off of the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah, and of course it's always going to vary from what? Person to person. So I'm just not a friendly person. I'm a quiet person, I don't talk much. So when I see you, assalamu alaikum, how are you? That's it. That's all I can give you. But it can't be a thing in which I don't give you the salams because I'm so quiet. And I don't say alhamdulillah because I'm too quiet. I have to fight myself to go against my nature now. I'm naturally a very jealous man. I'm an alpha male. But in this instance, it's a suspicion against my wife, accusing her of something that she didn't do. I have to fight myself not to be my natural alpha male self. Wallahu a'lam.
One.
Further.
Initials OA from Famagusta, North Cyprus. May Allah bless all the speakers for this. What about, he's speaking about the, what about speaking the vulgar slang instead of prestigious language? In some countries, it may be considered bad manners.
Repeat the question.
The question says, what about speaking the vulgar slang instead of prestigious language? In some countries, it may be considered bad manners.
Like, Bismillah wa salatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ba'd. It's important. A person generally gauges a person's intellect by how they speak. If a person uses vulgar language, language that's not all the way coherent, language that is not known for people who have a particular level of intellect, then it's going to be very difficult for anyone to respect what that person says, take them seriously, or to even put them in any type of standard or status, especially if that person has knowledge or is a person of virtue. In my opinion, my humble opinion, it's very important that a person, if you do speak that way, then try to correct your language. Try to speak in a way that's better, even if the people around you don't speak that way. Now, there are instances where you may be in a surrounding around people and they only understand that type of language. So in some instances, you may have to speak that way, but it should not be the norm. It shouldn't be the norm to speak with languages that are vulgar. And I'm not saying if you're a person of knowledge or a person of virtue that you're going to speak vulgar, but you may speak particular types of slang in order to reach a target audience, if that makes sense. But in general, and Allah knows best, a person should try to speak proper as the Prophet ﷺ was fasih. He spoke proper. When you look through the Quran and the Sunnah, even if you look through ancient texts in Islam, in Arabic, it's a lot of it is proper, especially in Ashir al-Jahiliyyah. If you look at poetry prior to Islam, even when you look through those different types of poetry, you still find that the Arab, they spoke proper fasih, proper Arabic, in order to tawsil al-ma'lum, in order for the meaning to be met. Even if you were to go to, for example, you study the Arabic language, and you go to universities, etc., sometimes they even use the Shir al-Jahiliyyah, the poetry prior to Islam, to prove grammatical points in the Arabic language. So the point in saying that is that it's very important for Muslims in particular, especially people in urban America, to speak proper English. If you don't speak proper English, a lot of times maybe people won't respect you. They don't respect what you have to say or whatever knowledge you have, and Allah knows best.
Comment on that. Jazakallahu khairan. Please go back to what we said in our lecture. We clearly excluded obscenities and vulgarity. We clearly said that. Maybe 2 or 3 times. We clearly said no cursing, no lying, no exceeding the boundaries. So that part of the question is not even valid. We clearly excluded that. So that shouldn't be a question anymore. We clearly said no what? Cursing, lying, slandering, anything that's against the deen. Second of all, and commenting with Sheikh Ali is saying, and my intention, is that there's a difference in public speaking versus private speaking. Talking in a place or status, no doubt, how you talk, how you articulate yourself. No question about that. Of course, you're not going to give a talk and you're giving dawah to non-Muslims or giving a khutbah talking, you know what I mean, and this and that. Unless you have to, as you mentioned. However, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking people who think that they can't be themselves. That's the problem. Is the theft of identity. And the person thinks that every single thing, I'm going to be honest, many people, many of us, we think and feel what we say with our tongues, everything about us is inferior. Everything. And it's not just a black and white thing. You can be someone white, someone black. But many people, they have this complex. My language, my food, my culture, everything is bad, haram, jahiliyyah, evil, and ugly. And everything over there, the grass is greener on the other side, is good, proper. And that's what we're warning from. That's what we're warning from. And that's not husnul khuluq, to be a robot and act like you're someone else. That's the point. Wallahu a'lam.
Sisters?
Assalamu alaikum. What is the best way to navigate the change in the behavior / character when your husband has taken on a new wife? Now, I don't know if this is a change in behavior from the husband or the wife.
If it's from the sisters, it's starting with the husband. No doubt. The husband's acting funny because he got a new wife.
Saajid.
Maybe it's from the sister.
Saajid, huh?
Oh, man. Number one, it's a couple issues connected to this. Number one, and I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, the sisters have to understand that Deen, Islam, nobody's Islam, and the brothers too. Our Islam is not based around people. We don't base our Islam around our wives. So when my wife does something and she lets me down, my Islam crumbles. When she wants to pull out, she wants a divorce, right? And the marriage is over, I crumble as a man. My Islam crumbles. And the sisters the same way. Deen, your deen, religion, Islam is not based and sanctioned on your husband. So when your husband marries another woman, your deen crumbles because you never thought he would ever do that to you. So he let you down. He did something you never thought he would do. He disappointed you. So now what? You crumble? He's from the creation, just like you're from the creation. He got a set amount of time. He just put more on his plate that he's responsible for in front of Allah. Jealousy, why? That's normal. Normal. The best of the women of the Ummah were jealous. But overboard, where it takes you outside of what the Quran and Sunnah has allowed emotions are allowable to an extent. Emotions, we people, we're not robots, we're not machines, right? So a woman is going to be jealous. Yeah, he's going to change, possibly. Is a woman going to be jealous? Possibly. But how far are you allowed to go? And how far does your jealousy take you? That's between a person, a woman, and her relationship with her Lord. If she's not strong, if her iman is not strong, if her trust in Allah is not strong, if she's not confident in herself, if she's not confident in her abilities, then she's going to be affected, and it's going to be a long road. It's going to be a long road. If she's comfortable in her skin, and she's comfortable with her Lord, and she understands no matter what he does, no matter what he does, I worship Allah. Brothers too, no matter what she does, because sometimes the women do the same thing. The women went out of the marriage, y'all got how many kids together, you never thought she would ever leave you. She'd wake up one day and say, I'm tired of your mess, I'm done. I want a full-out. And then she asks you for a full-out for every day for the next 36 days. Until you give in and give it a full-out. And then what? Now you got to deal with it. Now what we do? Crumble? But our deen, and to me, since I'm answering the question, to me, this is an issue that goes back to a person's aqidah, their relationship with Allah. If your relationship with Allah is on a certain level, you're going to deal with it on a certain level. And if your relationship with Allah is not on that level, then everybody's going to react according to the level of their iman and their attachments with Allah. If we're attached, any of us, if we're attached to husbands and wives and children and people we love from the creation, more than we're attached to Allah, we're going to constantly have problems. We're going to wake up tomorrow and one of our children could die. We could wake up tomorrow and anything can happen. Anything. We're not people who worship based on the person I love is keeping me happy. So when the person that I love lets me down and I'm not happy anymore, my worship falls off and he's out the window. That's not the Muslim. The Muslim doesn't live like that. Our worship is based on our attachment to Allah Jalla wa'ala. Whether he or she lets me down, man, it is what it is. Beni Adam. Everybody's human. She's gonna make a mistake. She's gonna do something that you never thought she would do, possibly. May Allah protect us all. He might do something, sis, that you never thought he would do. Disappoint you. What do we do? How we move after that? We just crumble. If that's our situation, we gotta go back to the basics and understand and evaluate our relationship with Allah. Because none of us are here tomorrow. None of us. None of us are here tomorrow. It's dunya, right? It's going to perish. All those words we read in the Quran and know dunya will perish except for this. But we have to understand that there's a time when Allah's going to test us. As Allah said, He might test us with, of course, stuff that we love. If we're living life based on benefit from the creation, whether it's a husband or a wife, specifically here, if you're living your Islam based on your husband being exactly what you want him to be, how you want him to be, and then he wakes up one day or he makes a turn off of the path that you had for him, and when he does that, he disappoints you, and now your whole Islam is crumbling in front of you, you got to go back. You have to go back and reevaluate your relationship with Allah Jalla wa'ala. Wallahu a'lam. But the adab, the way a sister carries herself, all of us, none of us are excused, brothers, sisters, and nobody is excused from living by the revelation, Quran and Sunnah. When people die, we're not excused from living by the Quran and Sunnah. Are we upset? Are we sad? Does it hurt? It hurts. You gotta bury people. It hurts. It's sad. Does that mean that we've been relieved of following the Quran and Sunnah in this instance? No. We don't have a past because some calamity, or what we see to be a calamity, she might see him getting another wife to be a calamity. To her, it's a fitna, calamity. That doesn't give her a green light to go outside of the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And likewise, none of us, when something happens to us, that's the time to be patient, sabr, not just the word sabr. To refrain and make sure whatever we're doing and saying is pleasing to Allah. Going back, being pleased with the qadr, the khayri wa sharri, all of the terms that we know. But again, it's a difference between knowing the terms and tatbiq, implementation. They're not the same. It's not the same. Memorizing 40 hadith of Imam An-Nawawi is not the same as the people who memorize it and they understand it. The people who memorize and understand them are not like the people who memorize them, understand them, and act on them. They're different. So as a reminder to us all, we don't base our deen, our Islam, our worship, our ibadah, is not based on the creation. The creation is pleasing me and keeping me comfortable. And then when that comfortability leaves, guess what? All of my worship goes with it. If that's the case, then we have to go back and look at our situation regarding our belief in Allah Jalla wa Ala wa Allah.
Question.
Assalamu alaikum. One is a question. If you have a non-Muslim, whether they're a family member or a friend, who respects you, they see the way you move as a Muslim, and they respect it. And they have they're curious about Islam, but they have not accepted Islam. What would you think would be the next few steps that the Muslims should take to heighten their curiosity? We know Allah can make a final decision, but what healthy steps can we make that will make them see Islam in a brighter light and probably want to come to the deen?
Question regarding a non-Muslim who's very interested in becoming a Muslim. Inshallah, they're on the edge and the border. They're very close, but they're not ready to make that decision to do it yet. They're very interested. They respect you as a Muslim, etc. What will be the final steps to seal the deal, quote unquote? I would say it has to be a mixture of things, not just one thing. You mentioned final steps. There's several steps.
Yes.
One step is to do nothing. Leave them as they are. They're interested, they're intrigued, they're curious, they're familiar with it. Just let the qadr take place. It's going to happen when Allah wants it, if Allah wants it to happen. And you don't have to push or shove or anything or pull. That's one step. And oftentimes when we have situations and problems, we do things, we push, we try, we drag and pull, which we shouldn't do anything. Just leave it. Just leave it. All right. So let's say you injure your ankle, and the doctor says in 4 weeks it'll be healed, but you can't walk for 6 weeks, and no basketball for 8 weeks. So the bone is set back in place. The cast is taken off. It's done after 4 weeks. But I don't want you to walk on it. But I want to, it's hurting me. It's scratching. It's itching. I gotta do this. 4 weeks to heal. 6 weeks off of it. And after you're not in the cast or the splint, I still need 2 more weeks in which you know basketball, no sports. I.e., there's nothing that the doctor's doing to your bone. There's nothing that you can do to the bone, but it needs what? Time. Just leave it. Let it naturally grow back and naturally reacclimate itself, etc. So that's a very important step. And many of us, someone accepting Islam, marital problems, dawah, this is very important. Sometimes the best thing is just don't touch it. All right? We talk about sports and the sports culture, which we always talk about, always in the khutbahs and classes. We always talk about sports. Because sports are a major fabric of this world. In the United States and in Saudi Arabia, all around the world, people love and worship soccer, football. Most popular sport in the world. The women, they just what? They just, how many cups do they win? It's not, sports is everything. All right, that's the reality. So we also talk about sports. So you have a point guard. He made some bad decisions. He made some turnovers, some foolish mistakes. And an experienced coach is going to do what? Yank him out. But the real experienced coach, the savvy coach, knows the quality of the player. This is the best point guard we have. Maybe the best point guard in the league. He made a couple bad decisions. I want to do what? Keep him in the game. I'm not even going to say anything to him because he got the message. He knows. I'm going to give him some time. And oftentimes that's more beneficial than what? Calling a timeout, hollering at him, just let him, he'll get it. So that's something that's a very important piece of advice with regards to your question in any aspect of life. And sometimes not to do nothing. And maybe when he becomes a Muslim, he says, man, the Muslims, they didn't pressure me. He didn't bully me. He didn't look down upon me. He allowed me to take my time. And that's a virtue. Secondly is inshallah ta'ala, sit down and talk with him or her, whoever it is, and ask them, what's the reason behind your hesitation? Why do you have cold feet? What you know, because we're talking, we're working together. You want to get married to me or whatever the case is, whatever it is, just keep it real. It's reality. I'm not saying that the situation is a woman. It may be. But Sheikh Slime, that's what. Let's keep it what? Let's keep it real. So you ask the person, you know, what's the issue? And oftentimes, many people who are, you know, it's an issue. I believe in Allah is one. I believe in Islam, Salat makes total sense, but I can't get over the fact that a man can have 4 wives, nothing. Or I can't get over the fact how, you know, I can't wear high waters, man. Muslims got their pants so high, I can't dress like that. Whatever. It can be anything. It can be anything. It can be anything. All right. So the fact of the matter is, sometimes you got to sit down and talk with them and remove that doubt, that misconception. I saw you make Salat. I know what Salat is. Hajj, 5 pillars, but I don't get the point about this. And then you explain it to him. Or you take him to your local imam or scholar or sheikh, and he explains to them, or a YouTube link. And then oftentimes, oh, that's it? Man, class, bismillah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Step number 3, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, is to just be kind to them. Be kind to them. Continue to be kind to them. And tell them that you pray for them. And take them and bring them closer to you, not like as a friend, but take them with you. Come on, we're going to the mosque today. Let's go to this halal meat store. I remember there was one guy, where were we at? We were in where? I think it was it Peekskill? What was that? It was upstate New York. Remember that time? Huh? No. It was another place. We went, a couple brothers went up there, they had a tuna fish, remember? Don't act like you remember, Sheikh. Remember the guy, he's talking about a non-Muslim was working with him, and subhanAllah, the non-Muslim said the guy was Dominican. And he said, I was giving him dawah. I was giving this Dominican guy, I was giving him dawah to Islam. And he understood certain things, and he knew certain things. Well, it's a true story. And he said, one day, I invited him to my house, and I had my wife prepare for him some lamb. So he ate it, he's like, oh man, what's this? What type of meat is this? I never had this before. He said, this is Muslim meat. This is lamb. And the guy what? He became a Muslim. So do non-Muslims don't eat lamb? Of course not. There are all types of recipes. But there lies no doubt, lamb is oftentimes attributed and associated with the Middle East. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. There's steak versus lamb. And if you had to pick a meat, the Muslims, in most cases, it will probably be what? No doubt about that. Aqiqah, so on and so forth. So the moral of the story is that it was so good, and he says, this is a what? Even though it wasn't an accurate statement, he said, this is a Muslim meat. Only Muslims eat this. And he took his shahada. So showing them kindness, and showing them that the kindness is attached to Islam. This is what happens when you're a Muslim. I can give you even more, you can be even closer to me if you was a what? Muslim. You think that I'm treating you good now as a co-worker? Imagine if you were my brother. So you gotta mix it up. Mix it, diversify. Don't have one way frontal attack. Be Muslim right now and you're one in hellfire. You gotta mix it up. And every situation is what? Is different. Yes. Allahu Akbar.
Now, question from online. Amir Aslam from Ajman, United Arab Emirates. Assalamu alaikum Ustad. I want to ask about the ghusl of janaba of a woman. Is it allowed for a woman to wipe over her head like in ablution?
Right, in brief, ghusl janaba, there's 2 types of ghusl. You have a ghusl kamal and a ghusl mujzi. A ghusl kamal is when you go through the proper etiquettes of making the sunnah, etc., etc. While ghusl mujzi is when a person wets their entire body. In either case, the water must go to the root of the hair. It must touch the core of the head. And Allah knows best.
Question from the sisters.
Any other questions from the sisters? Type from the brothers. Abu Amin.
Question on speech. I tend to find that, let's say, the brothers who are like smooth in their talk tend to stay very wrong. And the brothers who are honest tend to have problems. So how far do you go with this? Let's say, you know, your wife told you to buy something at the store and you forgot. And then you come home and say, oh, she says, where is it? You say, oh, I forgot. You're in trouble. Another brother says, same situation. So the watching me in the store. Says, you know, what happened? Says, oh, I'm not listening too much. I just have to come back. You know, like, well, so I'm talking to this honest thing and very
Damn.
Right. Question is regarding.
Grab the mic.
He said, I've noticed that the smooth talking brothers stay married longer. And the honest brothers don't stay married as long, or their marriage isn't as harmonious, etc. I don't agree with your question. I don't agree that smoothness and honesty or lying, that there's no talazum, there's no connection between the two. You can be truthful and smooth. Smooth does not mean that you're a liar and good lie. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that in reality. Sometimes some people are smooth talkers and they're liars, or they exaggerate. But you can be smooth and honest. And that's why we have different types and levels of honest. It's brutally honest, we say, right? Brutally honest, meaning, how do I look? Man, no, take that off. You look horrible. You look a hot mess. You look like this. That's brutally honest. Versus, alhamdulillah, it's a nice dress. She never asked you what the dress was like. She said, how do I look in the dress? I said, it's a nice dress. That's being honest. That's not lying. That's not kedib. Nor are you hurting her feelings, nor are you saying something when she's going to get in trouble. She says, how do I look? And he says, listen, that's a nice dress, mashallah. That's very nice. She never asked you about the dress. And some women, or woman, she may say, tell me how I look. But I'm sure many other women will say, oh, jazakallah khairan, thank you. And it'll just go over their head sometimes. So the point I'm trying to get to, and it's very important, is being smooth doesn't mean that you have to lie. That's a misconception. And an example of that is what I just mentioned to you. She says, how do I look? If you tell her that she looks overweight or underweight, or it's bad on her, it's not for you, she's going to be mad at you. You don't like me. You're not attracted to me. Oh, you married a second wife now and I'm this and I'm ugly. For sure, you're going to be in trouble. So you can be, what you're saying, smooth without lying. But it's how you conduct yourself. It's not the move, but the what? The movement. It's not the move, it's the what? It's the movement. So we have a brother who, you have brothers, who very fashionable brothers, mashallah. And he said, Ma, those are nice. He says, I got it on sale. I got it at a discount. I found this in this type of store. I found it in that type of store. You're like, what do you mean? That's a $500 piece. I found it here. And it's not the move, it's the movement. It's how you move it and how you wear it. We have the same pair of shoes on. You look, mashallah, and I look, mashallah. Because it's what type of socks you got on, and what type of thobe you got on, what type of pants you wearing, and how you wearing them, how you rocking them. The same applies to speaking and speech. So two brothers, they may say the same thing. One wife smiles and gives them a hug and a kiss, and the other wife asks for a khula. It depends on how you say it. And smoothness and hikmah and wisdom is from Allah, as Allah says in the Quran. He gives wisdom to whom He what? To whom He wills. So no, it's a gift. But it doesn't mean that you can't obtain it. So there are two types of smoothness. There's smoothness, which is jibilli, wa hunak smoothness muktasab. Mujzi wa kamal. Straight up. There are two types of smoothness. There's a smoothness which a person is naturally born with. Some brothers, mashallah, whoever they're talking to, they're smooth. It doesn't matter who they speak to, they say it in the right way, let alone to women. They're just naturally gifted gap, as they say. They're good talkers. And they never have fights and argument with their wives, even if they're deadly wrong. He finds a way to word it, to say it. I love you, I bought you this, I'm going to do this, and she forgets about the problem. It's a reality. Some brothers are like that. MashaAllah. That's a gift. And you shouldn't aspire to be like that if you don't have it. That's a natural talent. But it doesn't mean that you can't learn. You can't learn how to be smooth and how to word things and order things and say it in a certain tone or a certain time. So there's a natural gift and there is an earned gift that you have to strive for. And if you want to do that, then hang around brothers that are smooth. Talk to them. Ask them questions. You understand what I'm saying? To learn from them. Learn from them. Inshallah. It's not what you say oftentimes, but it's what? How you say it. It's how you say it. And it's a very important tool of any successful leader or any successful person who has an influence. And what do the non-Muslims they say about diplomacy? One of the greatest diplomats in the history of this country was Henry Kissinger. He was a person responsible for the destruction and the downfall of Allah Alam how many regimes and countries. But it's how he said it and how he worded it. And the different presidents, they would send Kissinger to this country, to this dictator. And he would tell them things and say things and discuss things in which they would rob the country out of their resources and make them slaves of debt for 50 years, but how he worded it. And that's when he made that famous iconic statement that diplomacy is telling someone to go to hell in such a way that they look forward to the trip. Think about that statement now. Think how deep that statement is. SubhanAllah. He says that's the definition of diplomacy. It's not this, it's not that. Diplomacy being diplomatic, it's telling someone to go to hell, but do it in such a way in which they what? They look forward to the trip. That's the definition of being smooth. So it ain't about what you say, but it's about what? How you say it. And it doesn't mean that you have to lie. Doesn't mean that, huh? Wallahu a'lam. We got 8 minutes left.
Brothers, y'all gotta learn the trick questions that they send y'all to us. Some questions, setup questions. Y'all don't know the setup questions, y'all gotta learn them. Some questions is a setup. You're not really supposed to answer. You're being honest and it's not a real question.
Any questions from the sister?
No more questions. That's what online, inshallah. We'll come back to you, Abdullah, inshallah.
Initials MR from Lodi, California. How do you rid your mind of song lyrics and nonsense you have memorized in the past?
The poet said.
You said shit or didn't
You gotta fill a space with something else that's better. And you gotta really believe that what Allah has is better. It can't be like maybe. Yaqeen had a certainty in the religion, and the deen is big on how you respond to stuff. You have to really believe that what Allah, what Islam has for me is better than that. You have to really believe that Allah saved me from that darkness. Stuff was dark, it was destroying me. Alhamdulillah. It was destroying me. That doesn't mean that when you hear the car riding down the street, you still might not know the words. Right? It doesn't mean that necessarily, but it'll be a distaste for it at the least. At the least you won't, it'll be, you hate to hear it. Now I'll turn it down. Not that when you hear it, you smile and you're happy to hear it. But you gotta really believe, there has to be an honest belief there. With certainty, like that was destroying me. That was destroying me. And Allah saved me from that and gave me something better. Now I know Qur'an, I know Qur'an reciters from all over the world. Right? I want to sound like that. If the commitment and the sincerity is not in a person's heart, then they're not going to change. Doesn't matter what you put on, what words you say. If the iman has to be on a level where I hate to go back to that. I would hate to go back to that knowing that I was going down a path of destruction and Allah saved me. I would hate to go back with that. And how you gonna fill it up? It don't necessarily mean everything's gonna erase, especially if you listen to music. As long as many people been listening to music, right? It don't mean it's gonna erase. But sometimes it fades, where it's not even a thought, until somebody rides down the street playing. And you say, I forgot they even made. I forgot that was even a song. I haven't heard that such time. But you gotta fill it, replace it with something. You have to. We're not robots, y'all. We real people. We're humans, and stuff sticks, especially music. How many times you listen to a song over and over and over, which should be a proof against us that what? We can memorize garbage, but we don't listen to the Quran enough. And there are people who will tell you they memorize Quran.
Just the last teacher we had.
Mustafa. Yeah, he's a Muslim. That he told us he memorized Quran just by his father. He said, I memorized a lot of the longer surahs in the Quran just because my father played it in the house. Husli. What excuse do we have? You got to replace it with something that's better. We have to. Just from listening. The stuff don't just erase like that, but you have to replace it with something better. Wallahu a'lam. And the last thing I forgot to mention on this question for the sisters about the second wife thing. And the brother changes. For the brothers, you gotta let a woman be a woman. She gonna be emotional. Like, they're not robots. she's going to be emotional. And when she gets emotional, he can't divorce her because she's crying. And she's, you know, she's upset. She's going to calm down. She's going to calm down, inshallah. Inshallah. She's emotional. We have, you know, they women, they get emotional and they say stuff, and then, you know, they say stuff just like men do. And then when they say it, we crush. She's mad. Then she comes back in 2 days, it's like she never said anything. We got to let people, not just women, but we got to let people be people. People get upset and they say things they don't mean. And we have to let people be people, inshallah.
You make your Dan take Brother Abdullah's question? Questions? And that one, inshallah. Sorry? No.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
Yeah, just the last few months. Yeah, take that with
Bismillah. A question from the sisters. If a woman doesn't have a mahram, but she wants to make umrah / hajj, can she make it with her wakil that she got at the masjid and he is the imam? This is a two-part question. The second part, if a man and woman commit zina and they want to get married, how does that go? They want to make it haram. Right? The first part. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. This istita'a, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that making hajj is incumbent or obligatory for the one that is able. So, according to the majority school of thoughts of the ulama of the past, it is not permissible for a woman to travel without a mahram, period, hajj or what have you. According to Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, he takes the position that it's permissible for a woman to travel for hajj, based on this ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ, meaning upon mankind for them to make hajj istata'a. When you look up the term istata'a, it means zada wa rahila, meaning that they have food and sustenance and they have a means of transportation. Some of the ulama that use that position, they say that, okay, a woman can make hajj only based on this ayah if you follow the position of Imam Shafi'i. And others say, no, she can't make hajj because there's other ahadith that speak about a woman must travel if she has a mahram. So, in conclusion, and also in addition to this, it says she must make it with her wakil. Brothers and sisters in Islam, it's important because a woman cannot have a wakil. Her wali can have a wakil, but she cannot have a wakil. And when we say wakil, a wakil is a representative. A wakil is a representative, meaning anyone who represents someone in doing any type of transaction can be considered a wakil. A wali can have a wakil for him. Meaning, if I'm a wali over a sister and I say, listen, I'm stepping away, I need you to take care of that, then he becomes my wakil, not the sister's wakil. That's very important to understand, and unfortunately, this is a big misconception that a lot of Muslims have. The second part, so as it relates to that, depending on what school, how she wants to do it, it's probably better, and Allah knows best, that she goes with a mahram to make Hajj or Umrah, as I'm not saying that. However, there are positions of many of the ulama, or at least nowadays, that may hold it permissible based on the position of Imam Shafi'i as it relates to making Hajj. However, some of them take that a step further and say, listen, the purpose in Islam, we have two reasons. Or rather, in Islam, there are two reasons why legislations have been given. For example, a ruling is either ta'abbudi or mu'allim. Ta'abbudi, it means that we don't know the reason for the legislation, and mu'allim, it means that we know the reason for the legislation. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to pray 3 rak'ah for Salatul Maghrib, 2 out loud and 1 silent. There's no reason, we don't know the reason why it's 2 out loud and 1 silent, and we also don't know the reason why there are 3 rak'ahs. We have no idea. So therefore, we cannot make analytical deduction based off of this 3 rak'ah. Likewise, the Prophet ﷺ, when he said that a woman should not travel unless she has a mahram. So when the ulama look at this hadith, they say, okay, was this hadith mu'allam, meaning the reason for the hadith is known, or is ta'abbudi, meaning we hear and we obey and we don't ask questions. Many of the ulama look at this hadith and say it is mu'allal, meaning the reason for this hadith is because of her safety. So, the ones that ujiz, the ulama that say that it's permissible to travel without a mahram, if her safety can be guaranteed, they will look at it this way. The ones that say it is ta'abbudi, they will say no, she can't travel regardless because of the hadith and what the hadith says without looking at the reason for the legislation. Is that clear? Right. The next part. If a man and woman commit zina and they want to get married, how does that go? They want to make it halal. Right. According to the school of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala and some of the other ulama, is that if a person commits zina, they say she has to go through an idda period, kam mutallaqa, as if she were divorced. An idda period for mutallaqa, a woman that is divorced, it depends on her menstruation cycle. So if she is a woman that gets a menstruation on her menses, then she has to wait 3 menstrual cycles. If she is a woman that does not get her menses, for example, because she's older, her menses stop, then it is 3 months. And Allah Ta'ala a'lam, so based on that, it would be better if they want to get married, then she should wait through an iddah period and come back to the table again after that, and Allah knows best.
I wanted to ask what you just explained about the 2 different rules. One is known and one is not known.
No, not one is known and one is not.
I know. That's just the best way I can say it.
Okay.
Does it change the nature of the ruling? Like, does it make one, the one where, like the example you gave, that's clear. You can't change it, you can't touch it, you can't put no analytical deduction, none of that.
No wiggle room.
Huh?
There's no wiggle room.
No wiggle room. So with the other one, it is wiggle room, and it changes, it lessens.
So, truth. This is why you have ulama that give fatwa. This is why you get verdicts, right? So we have a hadith, right? Any hadith, right? If the hadith is mu'allal, meaning if the Prophet ﷺ mentioned this hadith and there's a reason for its legislation, that's number one. Now the next step is we have to know what is the reason for the legislation. If you understand what the reason for the legislation is, now it opens up the door for analytical deduction for the ulama. Not for average everyday people, you come on your own lap. The scholars now will look at this and say, okay, if this is the reason for the legislation, now let's look and compare it to something else. This is why right now today, if someone told you I wanted to smoke weed, you say weed is haram. Why is it haram? You wanted to shoot dope. Why is it haram? You don't have an ayah and you don't have a hadith that say you can't shoot dope. Sah? Like, what are they using? Khamr. Why? Why khamr? Because the reason for the legislation is known. You khamr al-aql. It causes the intellect to fluctuate. So the ulama use that reason there and apply it to other verdicts, to other rulings. Anything now that does the same effect takes the same ruling. Okay? This is what makes Islam applicable across all phases. Because when you have a hadith and you know the reason for the legislation, then you can apply it to other areas. Walder, is that clear? Right.
Inshallah, brothers, we'll stop here. If there are any other questions, then the brothers, they won't mind sticking around after Maghrib. Last point, Akhi, for further clarification and for everybody. I think that it's like some communication is like being lost here. What he's trying to say to you is, or I think what your question is now, if there's a ruling that he says mu'allal, the reason behind that ruling is clearly tangible. It's not just purely spiritual, like Maghrib being 3 rak'ah, but it's a reason. Khamr is haram not because grapes are bad, because it causes you to be topsy-turvy, etc. So we can apply that to other substances that haven't been directly mentioned in Quran and Sunnah. But I think your question is going the opposite way. Is it now permissible for a woman to travel without a mahram because of it being supposedly mu'allal? Exactly opposite. That's what he's saying. That some, not all, some could say, if that's the reason why the Prophet said that a woman cannot travel without a mahram, is because of her safety and her honor. If her safety and honor is not being endangered, then there's nothing wrong with it, because al-hukm yaduru ma'a wujudan. So if the end of the reason is there, the ruling is there. Year 3019 on planet Mars. And if the ruling isn't there, then it's halal. And that ruling was only haram based off of its reasoning. Clear on that? So sometimes certain rulings can change because it wasn't absolutely concrete from the beginning. But the problem is that we have to be careful of is that oftentimes people think that it's only one reason. And sometimes it's other reasons that we don't know about. And that's the whole concept why we said fatwa, tailor-made ruling, and that's why we have ijtihad. And this is the problem, especially where we come from, in which we just say who's right and who's wrong. So we have to be mindful that wise man once said there's no truths, only perception. How you look at it. So he may say a woman can travel on an airplane by herself because she's clearly safe. No doubt about that, let alone with a Hajj group. And others may say, no, the ruling remains. Her being attacked and harmed is only one of the ilm, of the reasons behind that thing being impermissible. So the alim who says that a woman can make a Hajj or Umrah without a mahram, he may be right, he may be wrong, but if you take the opposite view, you still respect it. And last but not least, for that question, your wali is not a mahram, sisters. Just because he's the one responsible for getting you married doesn't mean he's a mahram for you, that you can be alone with and travel with. That's a misunderstanding.
Unless it's a family, father,
Blood, your father, etc. The blood wali. Wallahu a'lam, sallallahu alaihi wa sallam, ala abdihi wa rasulihi Muhammad. Jazakumullahu khairan. Ahsantum.